What's up, Roadie Free Radio community? Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get to this week's episode, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't done so already, please head over to patreon.com/roadiefreeradio. Have a look at our account there. Let me know if you want to sign up by going ahead and signing up for as low as $1 a month on Patreon. You can help keep this show coming out week after week and enjoying all of these incredible, inspiring stories.
What's happening, Roadies? This is Mark Urselli.
This is Bruce Ryder.
What's happening, Roadies? This is Scott Adamson, and you are listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, Roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right, what's happening, Roadies? Welcome to yet another episode. 135, man, 135 episodes down. Today's guest is Scott Adamson. Hey, thank you guys for stopping by. This is your host, Larry Milburn, coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. It's a beautiful sunny day as I record this here. The sun is out. It's shining. It is making things get green and lush, and Connecticut's going to be beautiful this summer. I cannot wait for it. Listen, today's guest is Scott Adamson, touring front of house engineer for such artists as Slater Kinney, St. Vincent, Passion Pit, Jimmy Eat World, and he is also the founder of the online audio training platform, The Production Academy. But before we get into it too far today, guys, let's check out one of our sponsors. As you know, my good buddy Chris Wilson, the audio wizard, and his wife have started a phenomenal company called ShowPro Beard Co., where they have created their very own unique formula of beard balm that not only performs well in terms of health and nourishment, but also provides the control, shine, and pleasant aroma that any bearded professional would appreciate. These are non-waxy, all-natural beard balms that will leave your beard soft, smooth, and nourished. Choose from a variety of natural-smelling scents like Home Sweet Home, Morning Wood, Through the Woods, Chain Motor Oil, and of course, Original Unscented. Use the code ROADIE, get yourself 20% off your entire order. Look, you got to look good on the road. Get that beard balm, work it within the hair follicles, grease it up, and then get out on stage, do your job. Okay, it was a rough week, my friends. I'm not going to lie to you. A rough week. Lots going on this week. Let's see. I hit 4 weeks. It's been a month, officially a month at the new job, the office manager job that I took. It's been cool. It's been very cool. It's non-stressful. Okay, I just put in my time. I get my check. I make sure everything's running smoothly for them. I get to walk away and then begin the other crazy parts of my life, doing video work and all that good stuff, being a dad and a husband, family guy. But it was a rough week this week. Our dog, we almost had to put our dog down. He got vestibular disease this week, and we didn't know what the hell was going on. And then we were told possibly a brain tumor. We're talking about a long-haired Chihuahua named Riley. We got a lot of nicknames for our dog, as most people with pets come up with random nicknames. I call him Chicky. I don't know why. It used to be Paco, Flanger, Chicky. Anyway, almost put the guy down on Thursday. Took the day off of work. My wife took the day off of work. Took him for a walk. Had to hold him. He looked like hell, man. If you guys know what vestibular disease is, it basically fucks your animal up real good. But we did not put him down. We took him to the vet. After 2 trips to the ER with him, we took him to our regular vet, and he said, "No, man, I think we can get him through this. This is usually pretty curable." And the guy has bounced back incredibly. I don't know. He's like the bionic dog, this little dude. So that was a rough one. And yeah, those of you with pets, you know, they get into your little heart and they just burrow in there, man. And it's tough to say goodbye to them. So we did not have to do that, thankfully, this week. Listen, David Dan, the author, David Dan, who's been on the show, has been working on a book. I mentioned this last week, all about the late Michael Bloomfield's life. The book is called Guitar King, Michael Bloomfield's Life in the Blues. Comes out in October. okay? It's a big old book. It's like the definitive Michael Bloomfield book. The guy played with Bob Dylan. He played on Like a Rolling Stone. He played on Highway 61 Revisited, that full album, phenomenal. Played with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, was a key member of that band. And then he played on one of the best, I don't know, it's awesome, Super Session. If you guys know the album Super Session, Al Cooper, Michael Bloomfield, Stephen Stills, great stuff. He also started the band The Electric Flag. So David Dan, former guest of the show, is putting out this book. Comes out in October. You can pre-order it. There is a link in the show notes. Go over, check it out. Click that link. You can order that book. Don't forget Night Bob, our good buddy Night Bob, the legendary Night Bob, is doing an interview with author-filmmaker Stephen Blush called Rock and Roll War Stories at Coney Island Baby in New York City. Bob's got a few rock and roll war stories. That is faux show. So head on down there. Thursday, May 23rd at 7 p.m. 169 Avenue A in New York City. It's free. It's free. Rock and Roll War Stories at Coney Island Baby with Night Bob. Thursday, May 23rd, 7 p.m. Listen, since 2008, AirTurn has been manufacturing wireless products such as Bluetooth pedals and multifunction remotes, supporting hundreds of thousands of customers in over 40 countries. They have a wide range of products to choose from, including the AirTurn Go Stand, one of the best portable mic stands on the market that I use on this show on a regular basis. I'm looking at one right now in my little live space. Anyway, head over to airturn.com, use the code ROADIE to save 10% off your entire order. That's ROADIE to save 10% off your entire order. By the way, if you're really paying attention, have you noticed anything different sonically happening with my voice right now? I switched over. I had a client in yesterday and had to do a voiceover for him. So I busted out the RE20, the Electro Voice RE20 again. I'm not using the Samson Q2U right now, which I've been using for the last several weeks. Using the RE20, just thought I kept it up. I was like, hey, let's just do the show on this one tonight. So I like it. I like it. It's nice to be back. Listen, also coming up, May 29th, Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall, there is a memorial concert for tour manager Todd Confessore. Todd T-Boy Confessore, memorial concert Wednesday, May 29th. Night Ranger, who he was with for the last 10 years, they're going to be headlining. He was with Danger Danger, Trickster, Kiss, Stone Temple Pilots, Marilyn Manson. And like I said, was the tour manager for Night Ranger for the last 10 years. All right, my friends, how would you like to train with Robert Scoville, John Burton, Ken Pooch Van Druten, Carl Winkler, Darren De La Soul, and Scott Adamson, who's right here on the show today? How would you like to do that? You can do that by heading over to Sound Design Live and signing up for the Live Sound Summit, Sunday, June 2nd and Monday, June 3rd. Nathan Lively of Sound Design Live is putting on, again, his Live Sound Summit. This is practical education and community building for live sound engineers and the pro audio industry. He's got over 16 hours of training, and there's going to be well over 17 different experts. And you can do this live from your living room, kitchen, office, studio, wherever you are. Check it out, man. Head over to sounddesignlive.com, Live Sound Summit 2019. Everything will be recorded. You can get an all-access pass for all recordings, sides, and handouts. And if you use the code SUMMIT30, you get $30 off this amazing, amazing lineup of guests and this killer presentation that old Nathan Lively puts together for you. So head over there and check it out. I will put a link in the show notes. All right. Speaking of Scott Adamson, he is today's guest. As I mentioned, he is a touring front of house audio engineer. He's been working in the industry since the late 90s. He's a drummer. He's a front of house dude. He was born in California. He moved to Iowa, then on to Chicago, and now he's finally settled in New York City. He's toured with artists like Passion Pit, St. Vincent, Slater Kinney, Matt and Kim, Ingrid Michaelson, and the Hold Steady. The guy has been cranking it. And if that weren't enough, he's gone on to build one of the best online schools dedicated to helping musicians and sound engineers get the technical knowledge they need to have successful shows the Production Academy. He's got 3 different levels you can choose from, where to start for mixing and stage, and then like the sort of deep dive into all this stuff. These videos are super, super easy to watch, well thought out. They're broken down really nicely. I actually watched a few of these myself. They're easy to understand, clear. I learned a few things, which is always good. We had a great chat, man. Scott is a really nice guy. He's doing something that's just awesome. He knows his craft, and he learned it by doing it. And he saw an opening and a gap there in some of the education that's out there for audio professionals, and he wanted to provide that. And he's only been doing this for 3 years in terms of the Production Academy, and he's killing it already. So I spoke to Scott. We worked out a little something. And if you use the code ROADIE, okay, you get 1 month free when you sign up for his course. Use that code ROADIE, you get 1 month free. Okay? And I'm not even getting a kickback from that. That's just the love that I wanted to give to you and Scott wanted to give to you. So use the code ROADIE when you sign up for the productionacademy.com. His course is only $29 a month, by the way, and you get like a ton of videos that you can watch from anywhere that teach you all this great information. But if you use the code ROADIE, you get 1 free month. So head over, check that out. And also, my friends, don't forget, we are sponsored today by Stage Hands Clothing. Based in Chicago, this is a husband and wife team. They have created the one-stop shop for backstage professionals who are always working hard behind the scenes and count on high-quality, durable workwear. They carry everything from men's and women's apparel and plenty of super cool gear to keep you ready for the next task. Use the code ROADIE over there. You get 20% off your entire order. All right, guys, here we go. Have fun. Enjoy this episode. Scott and I had a great time chatting. I think you're going to like it. Here we go. Mr. Scott Adamson.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Scott, what's going on, brother? You are coming to me. Production Academy. What's going on?
Oh, just got back from a busy weekend out in California doing a gig, and happy to be back in New York City talking to you.
Portugal the man, I saw.
Oh yeah, that's what I did. First time I ever mixed them, headlining a festival.
No sound check.
It was on the fly, no sound check. It was crazy, man.
I had a chance to do some research, check out the Production Academy a couple of weeks back when we first started talking, and literally just this afternoon was like, I'm gonna check in and see what's new. Saw the new blog, saw the new videos about working with those guys over the weekend, and just the the intricacies, I should say, and the surprise of like working with a new band for the first time, not having a chance to do sound check, and you're headlining a festival, and you're not the normal guy.
Yeah, it was an adventure. I mean, it all worked out fine. I'm used to kind of throwing things together. Like obviously, if you do this stuff long enough, you get good at that, good at doing that. But
yeah,
it all worked out great. I think I said this in the video. Like a lot of sound guys like myself, you always want stuff to be super perfect, and
yeah,
sometimes if it's not, you kind of get down on yourself. But I think I've kind of learned to like let some stuff go and just be happy that I pulled it off, and it all just kind of the show happened. It's all
right, good. Exactly. Let me ask you something in terms of the blog and doing the videos, mm-hmm. right? So this is a little separate than teaching, and we're jumping in. We're jumping in heavy here without giving context to how you got into all this. But because I'm just curious, because it struck me, in terms of the blog, making the videos, not so much the videos on education, but more the blog videos of like, hey, this is what happened this weekend, and these are the challenges I faced and how I overcame them. Hopefully you overcame them. What prompted you to be so open about your process and your journey doing this stuff, which is different than why do you want to teach this stuff?
Sure. Well, I mean, honestly, it's like reading blogs about people that sell online courses, and that could be about anything, really. Actually, a lot of people sell online courses about making online courses, Yeah. And I follow these people, actually, and their advice usually is to be open and honest and talk about what you're doing, and that's kind of connects better with people than just this kind of formal education thing, which is still important, obviously.
Sure.
And it took me a while to kind of get comfortable doing that and feel like I had something to share and that people might care about it. But now that I've been doing it, I get great responses and people seem to connect with it, which is great. I mean, that's the whole point, is to make human connections and talk about this stuff on a human level, because it's music. It's it's about getting together and enjoying music. So.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of folks out there that just have online training courses, whatever it is, and they're just sort of spewing the education part of it, but they also don't open themselves up to, hey, look at me, I'm going through it too.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the best conversations I've ever had about live sound is just hanging out after gigs and talking to other people that do this stuff. It's talking about, and that's where I learn. That's where I feel like where I learn a lot is by just chatting with people informally. So it's not like I go and really take a lot of advanced training. I do once in a while for very specific things, but I don't really dig into, really advanced live sound training videos on advanced acoustical things, or getting deep into running smart, or like.
Right. You just figure it out.
Yeah, I talk to people and kind of like and informally figure out how other people do it and get tips and techniques that way. So nice. I figured it was a good way to just kind of chat and share and kind of hopefully develop those relationships with a lot of other people that are into this stuff.
How long ago did you start Production Academy?
Well, let's see. I think I put my first videos up maybe about 2 years ago now. My main course, the Essential Live Sound Training, it's kind of the 100+ video course. It's really like the fundamental, like beginner to intermediate aspects of live sound, specifically live sound. That's been up for about 9 months now. So, wow. But I've been working on it for quite a bit longer.
Sure.
Like, from the initial idea to writing the first curriculum to writing the second and third and fourth and fifth and 10th version of that before it actually kind of started to feel good and make sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's been a few years for me to like actually working on the whole thing.
And how's the response been?
And it's kind of mind blowing how many people write in to me and say, I've needed this. Yeah. I just haven't known where to get this information, and thank you so much for sharing it. People from I had a guy sign up for my main course from Tanzania a couple days ago.
Wow.
And he's already getting a ton out of it, and he just doesn't have access to that info. Like some of us is like in more populous, or not more populous, but like more in places with more live music and more production and more opportunity happening.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me feel good to be able to reach people like that.
Yeah. Did you ever teach before anything?
No, I actually taught banjo way back, like I lived in Chicago about 15 years ago. But besides that, no.
Because you have a nice, you lay it out really simply, and it's easy to follow. I mean, I didn't jump into the Essential Live Sound stuff, but the free stuff that I watched, the staging and the mixing and stuff like that, which obviously I just wanted to check out and see what you were doing. And then I found myself like, oh, he's so mellow and chill. Like I can follow right along. And then it was like, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. I picked up a few things, man. So I can only imagine the live sound, the Essential Live Sound package has got to be pretty awesome.
I hope so. I put a lot of work into it. People seem to love it. But again, it took me so long to get on camera and talk, and then watch myself and try again. It took me so long to just do it until I was at a point that I felt like, oh, this is kind of cool to watch, and I'm happy giving this out to people, and like it's something I'm proud of now. So
that's awesome.
But it took a lot of versions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know how it is, man. My YouTube channel, and the people on the show know I talk about it all the time. It's like, oh, I'm going to be posting a bunch of videos, and then life gets in the way or whatever happens, and I beat myself up for that. It's like, oh, I haven't posted a video, and but even I started out as an actor, and I still put the camera on me. It's like, what am I going to talk about? Is this interesting? Does anybody care? But you just got to do it, right? And I think, like you said earlier, like the authenticity part plays into it, and the more you can be that for people, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's people that, I know when I started doing audio, either studio or live sound stuff, I felt like the hardest thing was to know what people did and just kind of have an insight into how pros did it and what that looked like. It felt very opaque.
Yeah.
Especially like a lot of the live music industry. It felt like it was really hard to get to the next level of touring or understand how systems operated at big levels, and it just was really unclear about where to find that information and have access to that type of knowledge and experience. So I think that's why I want to be open and sharing about my experience, with the stuff that I get to do.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not doing the hugest world tours, ever, which is fine, but there's still like a lot of stuff I do is at a level that a lot of like younger kids starting out, or even people that have been doing it for a long time, that are trying to get up to the next level, just kind of want to have access and see it. So I feel like an open communication is cool that way.
Right.
And the internet makes it possible. It's kind of amazing,
Yeah, totally. I think it was in my interview. You just reminded me of something. I think it was in my interview with Peter Shapiro from Relics and from the Brooklyn Bowl, who was talking about, like for people that want to get started in different things like this, like for example, putting on events. It was his context. He was like, look, putting on an event in a bar, putting a band on or a night of music in a bar is really essentially no different than doing it, at an outdoor festival. It's just smaller, right? It's just the logistics are just different. The practical things you have to think about are just different. But it's all the same steps. So doing sound for a band, whether you're at a coffee house or for the Rolling Stones, same basic steps. I could get yelled at by all the community out there, but same basic steps, right? But it's just bigger, so you have to prepare more.
Totally. You have a microphone that plugs into a split that goes or to a console, and you have to set the gain correctly for it, and you have to EQ it so it compress it so it sounds good.
Yeah.
Same basic concepts. And obviously it's different, but it really, you do the sound check generally the same way. It is essentially the same thing.
Right.
And it's just not clear when you don't see the big productions happening that's really the case.
Yeah, right.
You have more crew, you have more budget, you have bigger systems and all that, and there are technical things that go along with that. But you still have to kind of do these fundamental things with sound to kind of make to make everything sound good. That's what I wanted to break down in the training that I put together. Is just like what top to bottom, A, B, C, D, like what are all the fundamental things you need to know at any level just to kind of have a solid understanding of how live sound works, and then you can apply that to whatever console you're on or whatever venue you're at or any of that.
So you were trucking along doing sound since the late 90s, which we'll get into how you got there, but you've been doing it for almost 20 years. Right?
Ooh, I'm feeling old, man.
I know, right? Listen, and I'm sure you're not as old as I am, but you've been doing it for a while. So what was it? What was like a turning point or something for you that was like, I gotta teach this shit?
Yeah.
Or was there something that you saw, or was there a lack of something that you saw with people that were doing things or new kids that were coming up and whatnot that you're like, I could do this better, or God, I'm looking at what these schools are offering and I could do it better. What was it?
Well, there's always been a lack of good education for live audio. There's so many good resources for recording, good schools for that, and a lot of good online resources. But it's just, ever since I started, I always noticed the lack of good training. I mean, there's a classic Yamaha audiobook called Live Sound Reinforcement. I think that's just what it's called. But in any case, Yamaha published it. And it's an amazing book, and it's really thorough. But you start flipping through it, and you see physics equations, and my eyes start to gloss over or whatever. Nothing that really broke it down into like digestible information. not to say that there's nothing out there now, but I just
Sure.
I would see people coming out of the colleges, Full Sail. I don't want to hate on people here, but there are a lot of audio colleges. People come out of there just ill prepared and not ready to go out there and start working shows. It was, and I start to pick people's brains about what those colleges were offering, what they actually learned, and was kind of mind blown by like how wrong it was. Like, just not how wrong it was, but they were just not really learning the right stuff, not really getting the right information from the right people, and just coming into the workforce not ready to go. So certainly all that was always in my mind as I was kind of going through my career. And then at a certain point, I wanted to do something else besides just touring. I don't know. I've been doing it for a long time, and I wanted something new to work on, something that was just interesting to me. And helping people makes me feel good. So like I think the wanting to give back to the community and try to give good information to people was definitely a motivating factor too.
That's awesome. What's been the biggest surprise in the last few years that you started this? What's something that you didn't bank on?
Oh, I don't know, that people would actually care and get something out of it. You create something, you throw it out there, you never know.
It's no different than doing what I do, man. You just put it out there, right? And you're like, oh, look, 10 people this week. Oh my God, 25 this next week. It's like keeps growing. It's awesome.
Well, I've been playing in bands my whole life and put out a lot of records that not many people have cared about that much. So I'm used to kind of that scene. But no, it's been, I'm pleased that the response has been so good. So,
cool.
But I think even just the industry, people like the D&B Speakers, a huge speaker manufacturer, they've been helpful. They posted some stuff on social media for me, or other people in the industry, different manufacturers, and different people that run organizations in the industry, like Carrie Keys, who does soundgirls.org, which is an amazing organization. She's been really supportive, and people have been just genuinely helpful and happy that this stuff is out there. So I think it's kind of something I hoped for but didn't quite expect. So it was cool to see that happen.
Cool, man. All right, so let's go back. You are currently based in New York.
Yep.
In the city?
Yeah, been living here about 10 years. I love it. I think I'll be here for a while.
Yeah. Are you a native Chicagoan?
I grew up in California.
Cool.
Born in Orange County, and then grew up in mostly around Sacramento. Then when I was 14, my dad got a job in Iowa. He's like, kids, we're moving out to Iowa. And I was like, I don't like potatoes, Dad. He's like, it's corn. It's corn. Like, all right. So go out there in the middle of the snowstorm. This is 1991, and I remember hearing Nirvana for the first time on the drive out. It's like kind of like a lot of like rock music that I liked was kind of popping around then. So it was interesting moving to the Midwest. The best thing about all that, and then I went from Iowa to Chicago and then out here to New York. But the best thing about moving to the Midwest was the quality of education in the school system was just light years ahead of California. Learned had a really great music education in Des Moines, where I lived, and that really like set the stage for me a lot as far as like being able to pursue all the things I've done.
Yeah. Are you a guitarist, or were you a guitarist? Is that your thing?
Drummer mostly.
Okay.
But like I said, I played banjo. I play some keys and stuff. But drummer mostly. That's kind of what I'm still doing now.
When did you start playing drums?
14.
Nice. So your dad said we're moving, and you're like, oh yeah, we are. I got something for you, Dad.
Yeah, you're gonna lay that on me. Well, I'm gonna lay this on you, Dad. But lifelong. I started playing piano when I was 5, so a love of music was always definitely something that I that was a foundation for like getting into audio and stuff.
Yeah.
But
musical family?
Just my dad can't carry a tune, but my mom and her dad very musical. It's really my grandpa. I think I got a lot of love of it from. He was a trumpet player. I think if he didn't decide to go to a doctor, he probably would have pursued some career in music, like I have. So it really comes from him.
Was the idea that you were going to be in bands and like that's what you wanted to do, or was it like, this is kind of a hobby?
No, I always wanted to be in bands. That was like,
this is it.
yeah, totally. Like, seeing, I don't know, just getting into rock, punk rock, weird, alternative, strange music in high school, and just knowing that that's kind of what I wanted to be involved with, and those are the people that I wanted to be hanging out with and working with. I mean, that was just really inspirational. So that's why I went to Chicago it's like back in the late 90s, the music scene was great there.
That's awesome.
So moved out there to try to play in bands. That was always kind of the motivation.
At that point, were you also doing some behind the scenes stuff, or was it still just playing drums?
Playing drums, but I started doing live sound like at 18, I think.
Okay.
First job in a club. I think it was totally illegal for me to be in there, but
yeah.
But that was always it always just kind of went hand in hand for me. And I think a lot of audio engineers the same way. Kind of get into the love of music by playing music, and then you just want to be around it and work with those people. And do you play at all? Do you play music?
I'm a guitarist.
Yeah.
Guitar player, singer, songwriter. Not as much these days. Well, it's been a while. I'll just say that. But yeah, in the 90s, I was out in LA, and I did that. I was an actor and did a little tour and put out a little EP and whatnot. And I miss it, man. I still have a setup. I've got all my gear. That's what I was saying, like in the beginning of this, like you can't see all my stuff, but my guitars and everything's all set up out there, ready to go. But it's just a matter of finding that time. But the other thing about finding time, and I did a video about this, is just finding those 5 minutes. Like even if you just have 5 minutes, even if you just sat down at your drum kit and did like 2 fills, right?
Yeah.
It may just be enough in the morning to get you psyched for the day, or as the reward for writing those 5 emails that you were dreading to write, or you've got an intense conference call coming up. I'm just gonna hit a few wacky, distorted, E chords, or this riff, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, bring that fucking call on.
Yeah, it's volume therapy, man. Totally.
Therapy.
I got band practice tonight. I'm excited about it.
Oh, nice.
I did drums for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I have another band with my wife who played last night. It's so like 2 days in a row playing drums. I'm excited about it because I always feel better afterwards.
Of course. Yeah. What's the band with your wife?
We're just she's writing some songs. I met her on tour. Her old band was opening for a band I was working for, and that's how we met. So
that's awesome.
But we're trying to put a band together right now. Looking for another good guitar player here in New York City.
Yep.
To team up with, and we'll see how it goes. But
what kind of stuff is it?
It's a punk band, rock band. So
nice.
She's always kind of been to like alternative punk stuff. So
yeah.
The only job she's ever been excited about me getting is Slater Kinney, where she's just like super psyched. She's like, I'm coming to all those shows. Great.
Does she? So is that the only one she's ever traveled really with you, or wanted to travel with you?
Yeah, she doesn't even really. She has a full-time job.
What does she do?
She's an art director, so she's worked at a ton of great magazines and stuff. So.
But she gets it. She's a musician. She gets it. She gets your lifestyle.
It's been very helpful for touring full time since we got married. It's hard for people to let their spouses go away for 6, 8, 10 months out of the year. I mean, I don't tour that much, but
right.
So I definitely know people that do, and their loved ones are at home. It can be hard.
Yeah. Hard
to keep it together. I mean, we don't have kids or anything, so that makes it easier. But it's certainly having an understanding of what I'm doing day to day. I think helps her with just like letting it go.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you're just out there really bored for 10 hours out of the day and like mixing a show for a couple hours. Yeah, that's about right.
That's about it. And I'm tired all the time. Oh man. And so when you started to drift away, let's say, from being like a full-time drummer because road work was starting to take over more, did you have that feeling of like, oh man, but I really want to be a drummer in a rock band. I don't necessarily want to do this other thing. Did you have that push and pull, or was it like, no, this is just a natural extension of this, and this is where the money's going to come from?
I remember the very first touring sound job I got was with Jimmy Eat World, a band from Arizona, and they ended up having some good success. They had some big hits back in the day, but like this was before that. This is on the lead up to that, and so we did one tour, and I think the offer was there for me to keep working for them, but I got another offer playing drums for this other band called Joan of Arc, and I ended up bailing on the sound stuff to play drums because that's what I wanted to do. And then of course Jimmy World blows up. They got super huge and go out and do all this big stuff. And I knew that I still wanted to be a drummer for a few years after that because I didn't really care.
Right.
But looking back much later, I was like, well, my live sound career probably would have been much better or different if I had stuck with it back then. But
Sure.
But it was a while after that till I really decided to go full time touring with sound and just care less about the drumming stuff.
Yeah. And how come no drum teching?
I like mixing.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the process of putting a mix together.
Yeah.
It's really satisfying to me, and I think for me personally, if I'm touring, that's the only job I would want to do.
Yes.
Is mixing in front of house. It's kind of what interests me, and I feel satisfaction. I feel like totally happy and fulfilled when we have a good show,
Yeah.
and I can contribute that part of it. It feels good to me. So yeah, I think I know a lot of great drum techs, and they love doing what they do, but I just think it's for me, the audio, the mixing stuff is really what makes it worth it for me.
Yeah. So I imagine this is part of the production academy, but I'd love you to talk me through the process in terms of you haven't mixed for a band. I mean, case in point, Portugal the Man. You haven't mixed for a band. You get a call to do a show or maybe a run of shows or whatever it is. Talk me through the process of like, do you meet the band or the lead singer? Obviously, you meet management and whatnot. The discussions of like, this is what it needs to sound like.
Right.
Maybe I'm sure in some cases you never meet the band to have those conversations, right?
It's happened for sure.
Yeah.
Like I did a show with Nas, the hip hop artist, a couple of years ago, and never even saw him except on stage. He was never met him or anything. It was different than I'm used to operating. But sometimes people have very specific ideas about what they want for sure.
Yeah.
But like the hiring, when I get hired, it's almost always through either a manager or a production manager. And so the first round of emails or discussions almost always goes through them. And then it's usually not until like right before the show that I'm going to have a conversation about what it's supposed to sound like or meet the artist, usually day of show. And people will sometimes throw a lot of notes at me or if they're really on top of their shit, then a few days before they'll send me some notes or whatever. And a lot of artists really don't have the technical knowledge to describe exactly what they're saying. So there's definitely an art in interpreting and trying to get an idea, but like listening to records ahead of time and doing some homework ahead of time definitely helps with that.
You mentioned in the blog and in the video about being able to do virtual soundcheck for them in particular. So I imagine that has got to be a big help as well, because you're hearing, unless you'd seen the band live prior, you're finally sort of hearing it live and getting a flavor for it, right?
Yeah. I mean, virtual soundcheck is so helpful. It's amazing. It's great. But I was talking about this in this last blog post. Like I had all that set up to do this past weekend and just ran out of time. It didn't, had some technical issues getting set up, and then there was just a go time where we had to start getting on with our line check and getting sounds together, and the virtual sound check just never happened. So it's not something I really want to rely on, but if you have time to get that set up and really go through, I feel like it's incredible tool. I've thought before, if I had a band with a budget that I was a big enough budget that I was going to go work for, I would want to go spend a day in a just in a room with the console and virtual Soundcheck and a couple speakers and go through and really tweak everything out before going into a show.
So let me just sort of take it step by step, like for this past weekend, right? Just so I understand, and that anyone sort of new to this whole thing listening, or so you get this call, you go do the thing, and it's at a festival, so there's other bands. It's not like it's just you guys and you've got the 3:00 slot to go in and do sound check. You get no sound check, but you get a line check, which basically means, a little guitar hit, keyboard, tap a few mics, check 1 2. That's about it, right? So you don't hear. Am I right in saying that you don't actually hear any full band, sound mix thing coming out until the first note of the first song when they take the stage?
That's correct. That's how it went down.
I would shit myself.
It was terrifying. It was one of those things, like the 10 seconds before they go on, just nervous, and then 10 seconds after they start playing, it's like, all right, it's fine. It's a rock band. We got this. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
No, but the whole process for this past weekend was we were able to get into the festival the day before the show, because we were on the first day of the festival, so we were able to go in there and have a couple hours to set up, get our gear together. I was supposed to get in a little earlier than I did, but my flight was delayed, so there was that. And then got in and set up the console we were using. Luckily, we had our own console because the band had rented it, so luckily I had that all to myself. But even getting the console to talk to the Waves server, which is an external thing, that's different there were some issues with that, so that took half an hour, 45 minutes, and then time's ticking, and then I looked at the virtual sound check, and the MADI interface wasn't talking to the computer. So at that point, I only had about 15 minutes, 20 minutes before we had to start doing a line check. And the show from the virtual sound check was recorded on different backline than the gear we actually had there for that show. So it was one of those things. It would have been great to sit there for a few hours and play with it like I had planned, but when we ran out of time, it just wasn't worth it. It just had to kind of focus on what was happening there. Each of the stage techs would go through. There was a drum tech and then a guitar tech, and they went through and were playing the instruments. So I was listening to them with the microphones we had there that day, trying to adjust stuff. Plus, the monitor engineer, it was a new monitor engineer too. It wasn't their normal monitor engineer. So he was up there setting mics on stage, so I knew the mics would be in different positions. So at some point, the virtual sound check was just kind of gone, which is fine. I debated whether to do it in the first place anyway, because this is kind of how the situation works in live shows. You just are under the gun.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things you have to think about. Adding another thing to the mix isn't always helpful. Sometimes it's just a detriment. But I was, knowing that, I was able to just kind of let it go when the time crunch came on.
The virtual sound check is, as I sort of understand it again from, watching Robert Scoville do it for the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, is basically you're listening back to tracks from the previous show, the live isolated tracks from the previous show that are recorded in whatever Pro Tools or whatever you're going to use, right?
Yep.
So is that not something that you could say, okay, I didn't get to virtual sound check today at the festival? Well, I guess it didn't matter because you were leaving that night. But let's say the night before or some time before, you're on the airplane. Is that something you can pull up? I mean, I guess you could if you had Pro Tools on a laptop or something, right? Is it something you could pull up and put headphones on and just sort of take yourself through the different things and be like, okay, I see what they're doing here, got this tone here? Or does it totally not matter because as soon as you get into the room, everything's going to change anyway?
You cannot do that, unfortunately. I think the technology will come along eventually, but you actually have to have the console in front of you. Okay. Because, most consoles have offline editors, so you can pull up on your computer like an Avid an Avid file and go through and tweak it out and move faders around and change EQs or whatever. You can do that with Yamaha. You can do that with Midas consoles, the Digicos. And that's helpful, but you can't actually run audio through that computer. You actually need the actual hardware of the console to do that. So it's only really useful if you're sitting there in front of the console, like in the room, tweaking it out. And I use it all the time when I'm on tour, and I have my own stuff that's consistent from day to day, and I know exactly how I already have it set up. I have the same gear every night. I can just plug it in and hit a button and it goes. I definitely use that almost every day on a tour, just to hear the mix I have in the new room or whatever, change some acoustics. Because I usually don't change inputs that much. If every mic or DI, every input coming from stage comes to console, those pretty much stay the same for me from show to show. Right. If we have the same gear, same mics and everything. And it's just the outputs of the console that I'll change, which different EQ on the outputs to accommodate for different PA systems or different acoustic settings, acoustics in different rooms. So that's really the stuff that I kind of think about day to day if I'm on tour and using virtual Soundcheck.
As shows in your career, as shows started getting bigger for you, and your career started to truck along there, when did you start feeling like, yeah, I'm a legit sound dude. I'm doing this. Was there a point when that happened?
I still don't feel like that, man.
No,
I don't know. It's such a weird thing, and I remember my friend Donato talking about this once, and he and I were just sitting on the side of a stage, and I was talking about some band that either he was working for or a friend of ours was working for, and I was kind of lamenting the fact. I was like, oh man, I would love to do that big tour. They're going off and doing all these huge things. Like, I feel like I don't work for like that huge of bands or something like that silly. And then this girl walks up to me and like, she's like, oh, I met you work for this band, like you work for my favorite bands. How do you get to do that? Yeah. And he just looks at me. He's like, yeah, see, it's all perception. It's you can't be down on the gigs you have because you're providing a valuable service, and if you're having fun and you're working with people that you like, it's way more about that than however many tickets were sold that night. It really doesn't matter, Right. I mean, it's I actually was talking to someone about putting the production academy together, and I mentioned it to him, and he's like, well, so when are you going to get like the real engineers out there to teach? And I was like, what? I mean, I've worked with Grammy-winning artists. That doesn't count, and then he kind of backtracked a little bit. But there is, at some level with the audio engineers, it's like, like if you don't do the biggest arenas, you're not a real, you don't have like the real skills or the real mixing skills. And it's that way when you're applying for jobs too. If people see that people are like, we want an arena mixer. So they hire people that have mixed arenas, and not all those engineers are that great. It's just it's about how people perceive you, especially with artists and artist management, and apparently other sound engineers too. But kind of like having those conversations has kind of helped me have a better perspective on things, a better attitude towards things, just like really loving the jobs that I have and appreciating the people that I get to work with, and not really worrying too much about the rest of it. So
aside from the technical at the production academy, what else do you cover? Do you talk about, do you get into stuff sort of like we were talking about, this process of how you're going to meet the band, how you handle that, or how you handle mistakes? Hey, you totally screwed up, So I'll put this question to you, Scott. Have you ever had a time where you've totally just blown it? And how did you recover? And what is your advice for someone in a situation where they blow it and need to recover?
I mean, I'm sure I have. Maybe I've just totally blocked it out of my mind. I mean, I know I have. It's been a while, I think, just because I've gotten so good at just crisis management. making sure I get the vocals so people can hear them and that sort of thing. So like, all right, we got through the show. At least the most important thing, the one important thing of this show happened, to where you can, if there's someone up there fronting a band, you can hear them sing, and then like, okay, maybe everything else sounded terrible, but the show got through. But I mean, I tell this to everybody. I do talk about this in videos, that if you show up and before the show even happens, and you're just like nice to people and are treating people with respect and are generally just kind of cool to people, then you're gonna get a lot more leeway if things go wrong. And even if I've seen people, even if they have terrible shows, they'll get rehired because they're being nice to people and are fun to talk to and have a good attitude towards things. So I think maybe that's just kind of the best way to approach this job period, is just like being nice to people from the get-go. So
it definitely goes a long way.
Yeah.
In life and in work, for sure. 1 second, I'm just getting the dog here to adjust. Poor little dude.
But no, I do talk a little bit about jobs and stuff in Production Academy, in the videos. The courses are focused more on technical things and process things of going through day to day, like what processes do you need to do to get a show going, sound checks, or how do you actually get a mix together, all that sort of thing. But I was kind of hoping to focus more on some of the other stuff in the blog and just talking to people, but I don't know. At this point, I'm just trying to like put as much out there as I can to see what people want to hear more of. So,
of course, yeah, totally.
Trying to get people to comment on videos isn't always easy,
Yeah, I know.
Or something like that to get interaction. But
I had a question. I've had this question as I've watched people mix, whether it's monitors or it's front of house or whatever it is, working with the newer consoles, digital consoles, as opposed to analog boards. And I'm just curious, because you're in the right age. I won't say you're old enough, but you're in the right age range to try to have mixed on analog boards first. And I'm curious because, like, it would seem to me if you're on an analog board, right? And I need to change an EQ. You just move your hand up, find the knob, turn it, basically.
Yep.
Whereas it looks like on these newer consoles, maybe you're hitting the button to shift over to fader to get the right fade group. Then you got to move your hand up to the screen to touch the screen and do a thing. It seems like there's more steps. Is that true, or are people just faster at it now?
It's 100% true. And
Yeah.
it's the hardest thing to learn for newer sound engineers, is how does this console work? How do you get to this screen? And I feel like it confuses the issue a lot with some of the signal flow and some of the fundamentals, because you can all those consoles are laid out differently and they all kind of work differently. And they're all totally proprietary. So it gets super confusing, especially when you have to switch consoles. So it's always been the best to teach on analog style and then apply those concepts to digital consoles, which is what I try to do in my training. But it gets confusing, and if you learn how a Midas console works and you go to a Soundcraft console, it's going to take a few seconds to get this simple thing that you want done. And like we know in live music, a few seconds can mean a lot. If you're trying to do 10 things, you're half the song's over, and you're not really focusing on the bigger picture stuff because you're trying to get from screen to screen. So it is difficult, and unfortunately, the only way to really learn this stuff is either to get your hands on the console and just get familiar with the flow. And it's also problematic because a lot of the consoles do so much these days. There's so many functions on these consoles,
right,
that it gets confusing to do the simple stuff sometimes. It's not necessarily laid out easily. And like one of the consoles I use a lot, the Avid S6L, a new Avid console, it sounds amazing. I love using it. I like the software a lot, but it gets very confusing on the surface, just trying to do this or that. And when I first started working on it, it was, it took me some time to get used to it. As like with any console
Yeah.
new console that I use.
Do they become intuitive? Do they become as intuitive as using an old analog board where the shit's numbered 1 through 48 or whatever it is, and then straight up you know what you got for each one? Does it become that way? I mean, it must. I don't know about intuitive, but it becomes more. You're more familiar with it, like you said. But I just look at those things and I'm like, man, I'm certainly not an audio engineer, but I've done enough of this stuff to know, like, all right, that's where my one track is, where this is going into, and I can follow everything else. And I look at these other boards, and I'm like, dude, there's no numbers.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like cool red lights on things. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's practice.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, you can. A lot of consoles have offline editors, like I was saying, where you can go there and like at least play around with the software, get to know how the software works, but. Like every computer, the software and the hardware are different things. So, you have to know where the stuff is on the console surface and in the software. You can usually do most anything on one or the other. Like you could probably run a whole show off the software without ever touching the actual desk, but it's slow.
Sure.
So it's really just kind of repetition and training. Like every console manufacturer will have trainings. For training sessions for their consoles, especially the more advanced ones, but it's just practice.
And I've seen in some Facebook chat groups and stuff, groups whatever, that like someone would be like, hey, I'm mixing a band, in a couple days, and it's on this. Does anyone have a board that I could get on to do whatever? And obviously people jump to their help and offer it up. So I guess that's the thing. But could you call, did you call and be like, yeah, I got a show in 5 days. I need to come in and check out one of your consoles? Does it work like that? Or are they like, oh, we don't have a training, sorry?
Yeah. I probably couldn't because they probably wouldn't care about me.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
I don't know. I've had some interactions with that company, and it's not always the most helpful. I shouldn't be saying this stuff, really.
Or maybe you should, so they could hear it and be like, oh, you know what? That guy's right. We got to clean up our act.
But there are other times, like SSL, Solid State Logic. They have a great new line of consoles, and my friend Andrew over there has helped me out a ton.
Mm-hmm.
He would love for me to come over and play around on stuff. I have done that in their office here in New York. So I think it just depends on knowing the right person in the company,
sure,
and having the clout to say that. But for most engineers who aren't in a position to really pull that sort of thing off, I think it's a matter of making connections with local production companies that have these consoles for rent.
Got it.
Because almost every one of those people that own those type of small production companies, regional production companies, or even the slightly bigger ones, there are people who are interested in helping people and doing shows. And if someone's like, oh, I really want to learn how this console works, they're probably going to be cool and say well, come on over to the shop and plug it in and play around with it and see what you think. I think that's kind of more the way to go than going straight to the manufacturers.
Got it. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, because you're right. They probably have a bunch more.
Yeah, I worked for a ton of small to mid-size production companies who the owners are just cool dudes who are in music and are into audio gear and want to share that stuff and kind of encourage other people to be involved. So
sure, and also it's smart for them because down the road that might be the company that you lean on to get gear for the next show if a production comes through and they don't have their own stuff. Right?
Yeah, totally. Or if they need someone to mix a show last minute and they're like, oh, we have this show and I don't have an engineer, they have someone else to be able to call up and maybe try to step in and help.
Where do you want your career to go?
Well, I'm really interested in doing the production academy a lot more. I have a ton more content to develop, a ton more in the pipeline. So I really want to focus on that going forward. But I love doing shows, and I don't want that to stop. So my goal really is to find a small number of artists, 2 or 3 artists that tour some throughout the year and don't go super hard. And work with them for a long time. My ideal touring amount is maybe 3 months a year, 3-4 months a year, and I would love to tour that much and just kind of be involved in doing shows and going out with people that I like mixing and maybe not taking all this stuff I don't want to do, and definitely not being on the road for 10 months a year. I'm not interested in doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Even though some people I know love that stuff, their life.
Sure, it's a grind, man.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like being here at home.
Yeah.
But no, I think I definitely want to. You know, I have like this band I worked for a long time called Haim. They don't tour too hard, so I'll probably work with them for at least another album cycle. And I don't know, stuff comes up from here and there. People that only want to do some shows once in a while, and who also don't want to go on huge, massive worldwide tours. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of finding the right clients that fit with the lifestyle that I want to have, and developing those relationships and working with them for as long as they can go.
That's awesome. And get your own bands off the ground.
Yeah, always. But you know, the moment when I stopped caring about having my own bands have any success, so to speak, was the moment I started enjoying it way more. So,
of course.
But definitely want to just, you know, if I can get behind the drum set like a couple times a week, I'm really happy. So
yeah, well, it sounds like you're doing it.
Get some like local gigs here in New York. Be happy with that. So.
Well, let's do a little lightning round here as we get. I've never really done this before, but let's do it. I think it'll be fun as we get toward the end here. I'm going to fire some questions at you. Ready?
I'm ready.
Totally off the cuff. I don't even know what they are. Here we go. Favorite live vocal mic?
Beta 58.
Beta 50. And by the way, I just want to point out, you're using a 57 to do this interview, and I love it.
Sure am, man. It's a classic.
It's a classic.
It's a classic sound.
It's awesome, dude. All right, so the Beta 58, nice. Favorite mic setup? Favorite drum mic setup?
Like
Overheads.
It's tough. I kind of like biodynamic mics on drums all around, I gotta say.
Okay, why?
There's like a smoothness to them that I really find like pleasant to listen to, and I feel like it kind of gets me like more of a studio type sound live than some other mic brands. So.
Can you actually hear? This isn't part of the lightning question, but I'm just curious. I mean, obviously you must be able to, but I'm picturing you at front of house position, empty arena. Let's call it a shed. In fact, I'm thinking of Hartford just because it's right here, right? Xfinity Center. If you're out there and you've got a drum kit in the middle of the stage and it's mic'd with both biodynamic, and let's just say, I'm not saying anything bad about the other company, let's just say, for argument's sake, Audio-Technica. Okay? Can you actually hear a difference if you could just like A/B? Can you
totally
with outdoor ambient noise and temperature, all that shit with freaking, you can hear that much of a difference? Totally.
Yeah. I think, well, especially with audio like this, those transducers, the microphone, the very first step is the most critical step in shaping the sound. I mean, those mics definitely sound different,
Yeah.
I think that's a situation where you can hear it more because you have a big PA system in front of you, and you can, especially like modern PA systems, you can really get accurate representation of what's coming in and what's going out.
Right.
Maybe you won't hear it so much in like a 400 capacity club where you're hearing a lot of the stage sound, and speakers are smaller or maybe not quite as high fidelity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's when it matters less, but yeah, I can definitely hear differences.
Do you carry different mics with you so that maybe you're out there and you're 5 or 6 shows in with the band and you're like, dude, I'm just not digging what a 57 sounds like on your guitar cab, so let's try something else.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Or do you usually like to mix, let's say, in a guitar cab, 2 different mics on the same cab?
I do. I worked for a couple bands recently that are Shure endorsed, so
there ain't nothing else coming out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, my favorite guitar mic to use these days is a KSM 313. It's a ribbon mic, and Shure makes it, and they're real. Usually ribbon mics are kind of fragile, so not great for the road. But these things sound great and are really durable. So I love using those on guitars. But having a 57 right by it, even if it's on one guitar cabinet on the same speaker, like putting them right together so the diaphragms are right close and the phase relationship is good, then that's kind of like my favorite guitar setup these days.
Nice.
But it definitely happens if it's, if I'm not pleased with something, or usually with the drums, if I don't like a mic on one thing, I'll change it out for something else. Change it until I'm happy with it. But if I'm touring these days, I'm usually always carrying mics with me, so you'll usually have like one or two alternatives. But I'm doing a tour coming up starting Saturday, where it's going to be all just house club gear. So we'll see. I'll be using a ton of different mics in different rooms, different boards and stuff.
But you'll have backups of your own shit, right? Because you could get a singer who's like, I don't like this. What is this?
Yeah. It's a comedy tour, so it's Fred Armisen. So I'll probably bring a mic. He doesn't even have a mic of his own, so I'll probably bring a mic for him, so he has the same mic every night. So
right, the special.
Not talking to some dirty club mic. But we'll use he's playing drums and guitar and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I'll bring a couple mics along just in case. And you use some club stuff. I don't know.
Well, that's cool. So is it just him on stage doing a bunch of different things, or he's got a little band, or what?
No, he's by himself. He has comedy bits that kind of about music and drumming. I think he had a Netflix special come out recently. I think he's kind of touring in conjunction with that. So
that's so awesome, though.
Should be fun. At least keep the volume. I don't have to be a really loud show every night.
Yeah, right. That's cool. That's a nice break, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's man, the volume thing really kind of kills me after a while. I met Fred through Slater Kinney, who's Carrie's, and he did Portlandia together. Yeah. But Slater Kinney's super loud, and that was one of the instructions that I got when I started working for them. Was like, just turn it up as loud as you can. Okay. I'm not gonna quite do that. I'll make it loud, but so it's good to not have those tours. My ears are ringing like crazy at the end of the tour, and I try to wear earplugs as much as I can, but it's still not 100% contained. Right. So it'll be nice to do a full tour, not worry about earplugs really, and just kind of make it sound nice and good, and awesome. Still have my hearing at the end of the tour.
Right, exactly. That is awesome. Are you going to blog about that, your Fred Armisen experience?
I'm going to try to post about the different audio gear I'm seeing at the different clubs. I think that's cool. Kind of helpful for people to know what's out there, and it'll be fun for me to be on a different console every night. So I'll try to figure out some things I like about each of the different consoles I see, and post about those. So nice. I don't know. I'm kind of looking for ideas. I'm hoping people send me some emails about what they want to see. So
you leave this Saturday.
This Saturday.
All right, so when this episode finally comes out, it will be 2 days into your tour.
Sweet.
So where can people send you emails as this thing comes out next week? Or this week, whatever it is.
Scott@theproductionacademy.com.
All right. Cool, man.
So anytime people can hit me up for whatever. I'm happy to talk to people and about whatever people want to hear.
Good. Scott, this was awesome, dude. I'm super psyched we got to do this, and I think you're doing great work at the Production Academy, man. I wish you luck.
Thank you, Larry. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
All right, Scott Adamson from the Production Academy. Guys, don't forget to head over, sign up, take some classes, hone your skills, man. Stay tuned next week. We got episode 136. During the week, you can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out that website, man, roadiefreeradio.com, and send me a note, because I wants to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, in the meantime, y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no
rock and roll.